Good evening, everyone. To start, I'd like to thank Jean-Baptiste for organizing this pretty amazing event. You know all the logistics that comes into this, so well done. So today the topic of the keynote is logistics, what we consider as a soft spot of the art market. How we realize that is quite linked to our history at Convilio and the history we have together with Clément, with my co-founder sitting here also today. We moved from, if that changes. What? Okay, thank you. Sorry about this. So what happened is that we were working for technology companies, e-commerce platform mostly selling clothes, food, and we ended up moving into the art market only to realize that shipping, fine art shipping was a pretty frustrating experience. Long story short, where we were coming from, when you had to set up a logistics service to pretty much fulfill any of the order you would be receiving, the process is fairly simple, right? You contact all of the big guys, UPS, FedEx, DHL, you negotiate with them, you kind of like find whatever good company you may be working with, you compare the services, compare the prices, and overall it's always the same process. Super easy to integrate, you close the deal, you would use then the online integration. So if you want to sell onto an e-commerce platform, to integrate that kind of plugin, it would literally take you minutes, right? And then we moved to the art market, and what we realized was that like this was literally not existing. Not only was it not existing, it was literally hindering the growth of the business that we were trying to set up. The first one, when you're a small or medium-sized company, what you will try to look for is not necessarily to close a deal with FedEx, UPS, or DHL because you're too small to get these good prices. So what you'll try to do is to look for third parties that will give you access to these good prices. Thing is, it doesn't exist in the art market. So we tried to go through the more classic providers, and what we realized, it was equally frustrating. So you end up working with companies that would, at the very least, take 48 hours to answer any of the quotes that you would send them, and 48 hours is I'm being nice. When it's complicated, it would be 5 days. It's overall extremely expensive, and it's not only expensive, it's opaque, right? So you never know what you pay for, and if it's raining, you get a right price. If it's sunny, maybe you get a price. Right? And the last point is, especially for the largest galleries, or if you have artists that are sitting in different places in Europe, is that based on the location when you need the artworks to be picked up, if it's in Germany, if it's in the UK, if it's in France, if it's in Switzerland, you will always have to use a different provider. Yeah, so that means that if you want to set up a business selling art online, you will have by default to create a logistic team just to manage all of the supplies that you'll be using. What's surprising, next slide. Oh. Okay, good. What's surprising is that this is happening in a market which is growing and going increasingly digital, right? So the growth of online sales is actually a lot stronger than the growth of the overall market. So the overall market last year grew by about 6%, while online sales grew by 11%. And this is not planning to change. This is a bit frustrating as well. Okay, and this is not planning to change. Last year, 93% of the high net worth individuals in the millennials demographics bought an artwork online. What's worth? Okay, actually, maybe, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. What's worse is that actually most of the millennials would rather buy an artwork online than offline. Next one. And if you're thinking that this is only targeting kind of the younger generation, it's also the case for Generation X, right? So it's everyone which is between 35 and 45 years old. All of these guys, previous one. All of these guys are already buying online, and they typically have the highest. They typically pay the highest price for any bid online, like close to $500,000 per online item that is being sold. Next one. And all of this generation they grew up witnessing the birth of a lot of large tech companies, right? So you'd have PayPal, you'd have Google, you'd have eBay, you'd have Amazon. And if we speak about Amazon, this is how the logistic looks like, right? So typically, whenever you go online and you're buying whatever, like in that case, it was kind of a painting that was up for sale on Amazon. You click on it, you buy it, you go at checkout. You have 2 options for delivery: curbside or white glove. Super easy, flawless. No interaction with the logistic team, no negotiation regarding who is gonna have to pay the logistic price. It's just super simple. And this is, I mean, what's kind of frustrating is that this is not happening on the online market. A lot of the people initially, when we created Convideo, told us, well, but kind of what you're trying to create here is targeting the younger generation, right? And the younger generation is not really buying art online, but they are not that young anymore. And they actually do represent a fairly large amount of high net worth collectors. Typically, it's 74%, right? So all of you here that are developing websites, you're developing websites for these guys. But the sad story is, next slide, is that you're probably already losing 1/3 of all your sales conversion just because you're not proposing enough logistic solutions to these clients that would be interested to buy art online. And this is why we created Convideo. The whole point of the company initially was to say, okay, how can we make fine art shipping easier? How can we make fine art shipping easier? How can we make it more transparent? How can we offer more options to literally anyone, taking into consideration that artworks may be located in various places across the world? And when we say it's a big problem, it was also a big opportunity for us, right? So that still within 2 years, we managed to deliver 4,274 items to more than 40 destinations for more than 650 clients. It's a fairly good growth, and it was not only driven by the fact that we were cheaper, it was mostly driven, we believe, by the fact that we really look at our users' needs and we try to identify for each customer typology what kind of product we needed to develop. And speaking about the first kind of category that we targeted, it was typically gallery owners, collectors, interior designers, and these guys were pretty much always faced with the same problem. So once again, what we had was they were looking for compromise on cost, right? So they needed to have better solutions, but they couldn't compromise on quality, right? So what we tried to develop was a system that is linking with software, a lot of the providers that we're using to make sure that we can reduce the effort that they're putting into their work to get us better prices. So we gave them access to optimize costs. The second point was the quoting time. So whenever a collector would enter a gallery, it would be interesting into an item, well, it would leave most of the time without a quoting price, right? Because you would have to send that email. So again, this has an impact potentially on your sales conversion. And the last point is, and this is especially for interior designers, is the consolidation of shipments. So they wanted to have this kind of services. So this is why we developed the first product that you can find on www.convideo.com. Like, you can check it out even on a mobile phone. And typically the idea is, okay, you give us a few information and we give you your price straight away. You give us pickup information, delivery information, dimensions, commercial value for insurance, and you're done. You have your price online, you can give it to your client. But the better part is that we try to make this as easy as booking a flight ticket, right? So if you give us a few more information, you can typically book your shipment online and you can pay for it. But again, another problem arises, and a lot of the galleries were telling us, well, it's great, but I'm still losing a lot of time giving updates to my clients. So we developed, and that's the first time it exists in the fine art shipping industry, it's an end-to-end tracking solution. So from the time an order is confirmed to the time it's being delivered, with all of the different steps, including creating, you can exactly know where your shipping is. Now, if we look at another customer typology, fairly large one, fairly important one for us, it's auction houses. When we're talking with them, they had typically fairly similar problems to art galleries, except that the quoting time was becoming even more of an issue, right? I mean, these guys, they're massive. For most, like, a lot of them are pretty big. They're selling a lot of lots. So what they're trying to do is to find a solution so that they can quote bigger catalogs faster. Second point was how to manage the documentation process. A lot of them have to deal with fine art documentation, such as CITES, certificate of exports, etc., etc. And the last 2 points were, again, consolidate shipments and optimize costs. When we dig into the problematic, which is linked to the quoting time, just picture this, right? You have a sale with 1,000 lots which are up for sale. You sell 80% of them, you have 800 lots. Let's say you have 600 that you need to ship. So you will be receiving, or your logistics team will be receiving 600 emails asking for a quote. Your logistics team will forward all of these quotes to one or several suppliers. They will answer, and then the logistics team will be forwarding back all of these different quotes to your clients. You pretty much have one department, people with massive expertise in logistics, sitting in a room forwarding emails. And we thought that was not something that was meant to be. These guys were supposed to focus more on complex shipments. So this is why we took the decision to develop a software which makes it a lot easier for non-expert departments to manage logistics. And typically in a lot of auction houses, it's the post-sale department. And it looks like this, right? So an auction house would send us a CSV file giving us all of the lots numbers, all of the lots names, and the dimensions. And once it is done, the logistic departments, when they receive a quote, they can select, let's say a client would tell them, okay, I bought one lot from this auction or several lots. You select the auction, you select the lots, you tell us where we need to pick it from, you give us the delivery address, and you choose the speed, the kind of delivery you want us to do, so whether it's curbside or white glove delivery. You tell us whether you need us to manage some kind of documentation, and then you can proceed to booking with your price on the bottom right. So you can do this within literally, I mean, we've done it. It's no faster really than this. So 20 seconds, you get your quote. So imagine the amount of time that these kind of teams can save and spend more time on offering a better service to their clients. Next slide. Now, for the last category that we'll be having a look at, it's arts, antique, and design platforms. And today we're really proud to present a new partnership. It will be the first time ever to show fine art shipping prices online on a large scale, right? So really happy today to present the partnership that we'll be launching early next year with eBay, which remains one of the world's largest destination for art, antiques, and collectibles. And I'd like also to thank Yasmin, who is here with us today, who has been an amazing sparring partner since the beginning in the past few months in developing this project, which was pretty complicated. And when we went through that process, when we started, we also did the same process as with our other users, right? So trying to understand the problems, what they've been faced with, and if you can go on to the next one. And it was fairly similar to auction houses, right? So on eBay, if you buy an item, you have the choice between FedEx, UPS, DHL, right? But all of these guys are not able to manage end-to-end the transport of fine art shipments. So you end up having buyers and sellers dealing with one another, trying to find solutions on how to ship these items. But all of these sellers, a lot of them still sell a lot on eBay, a lot of various merchandise, various items, and they have no clue about fine art shipments, and they have even no more clue about fine art documentation, right? So this has an impact. The consequences of this is that it has a negative impact on conversion rate. It creates a frustrating experience for the seller that have the feeling, well, maybe it's too expensive. I have no clue how this is being managed. It's super opaque. And the last point is, well, most of these sellers have no clue about fine art documentation. So the consequence of this is that potentially it could get blocked at customs. So we're launching beginning of next year this partnership, and all the eBay sellers will be able to use their credentials to log in onto the system that we developed together. From that system, they'll be able to extract all of their items, modify the dimensions if necessary. Then they'll be able to select the destination that they like to display onto their product pages. And lastly, ultimately, they will be able to display all of the shipping directly onto their product pages, right? So at the bottom now, if you're shipping if a seller is selling any of these kind of items, they can display these kind of prices, which was not something that was possible before. And to finish, which is where we're really proud, is that now we are able with eBay to display an experience which is really close to the click and buy experience that we were trying with Clément initially when we entered the art market to develop. So a big thank you to eBay for the trust they put in us. Now I'll finish. There have been a lot of talks today about carbon prints, about the fact that, well, all these transport guys, they're polluting a lot, and we're putting a lot of initiatives in place regarding carbon print, so I'll be happy also to answer any of these questions. Any questions?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'd be really excited to know what your views and what your future for the carbon footprint initiatives are. But also before that, you mentioned that you are on average 35% cheaper than your competitors. I want to know how this is achieved while keeping the quality of service that the fine art industry requires, since it's not Amazon, as you mentioned. It's not Xboxes being sent. So since it's quite a different typology of product, the service has to stay the same. So just to know your thoughts about this.
Yeah, that seems to work. Thank you for your question. So fairly simple. I think there are several elements to the fact that we're able to be cheaper while delivering on quality. The first element is the fact that we run on a lower cost structure, right? So we assembled an algorithm that allows us to calculate this kind of shipping prices instantly. I mean, this means that we don't have to have a team internally that would call up all of the different suppliers whenever we need to assemble a value chain to ship a product. Most of the more classic fine art shippers, they would have a team that would say, when you're selling an item, sending an item from Paris to New York, for example, they would be calling the guys in Paris, the creating center in Paris, the custom agents in New York, the partners in New York, et cetera, and that takes a lot of effort just to quote for one shipment, right? And we don't have to do this. So typically, for us and for our team or using the website, we don't have to have 25% of our staff just quoting every day, right? And that means that we can live also with a lower margin, and we passing on the savings to all of our clients. So that's the first point. The second point is that we developed a software layer that allows us to automate the information flows between the different users that the different suppliers we're working with. Typically, again, let's take a painting that we're sending from Paris to New York. We would automate, like, all of the different suppliers that we're using are communicating using a platform without us ever interacting, except for troubleshooting. And we are able to negotiate better deals with a lot of our suppliers just because it's easier for them to deal with us. Yeah. And actually, I don't know, I put that into the next slide. I don't know if you have it. But if you compare the kind of prices that I mean, it's in dollars, it's from a presentation, but if you compare our prices to the rest of the industry, one of our competitor, Arta, who also offers shipping prices online, is typically more than twice our price, right? And we deliver exactly the same kind of quality, and for a price which is literally half, right? And we can also compare with André Chenu or AC, which are more known here, or Cadog and Tate for the English-speaking people here. Any other question?
In the insurance industry, losses in transit are the biggest losses for us, the claims that are developed from that. Working through this platform, do you also track the loss histories of all these shipments? You said you had somewhere around 5,000 shipments that you've done. Does the speed do anything to create higher loss ratios? And also, would the clients know who is eventually actually handling the shipments on your behalf?
Regarding the loss ratio, it's not something we've started calculating because we've never lost an item so far. So I hope it's not going to happen. Eventually, it will, most probably as any operational company. So far, we've been pretty lucky on that one. But the way we track it is the more and more, whenever it's necessary for large items, we put a GPS tracker. So that's the first point. When it comes to the second point, eventually at some point you will know the company that will be coming to do the pickup and the company who is going to go do the delivery. But we are a freight forwarder, and in French law, that means that we're 100% responsible if something happens. So it's some kind of an opaque platform because we are the one auditing all of the different guys that will be transporting your artwork. And if something happens, it's on us. We are insuring the artwork ourselves if you need us to. So it's the idea for us is to make sure that you can externalize your logistics, not having to think who is going to take care of it because we are the one responsible for it.
Is there a limit to the value of art that you're shipping around?
I mean, theoretically, there is no limit, but that's theoretically. On the platform, it's 250K. So above that, we need to ask our insurer how we can insure it. But we've done it several times. The most expensive items that we ship was worth 2.5 million euros. So yeah.